Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And thank you for joining our webinar today, How to Increase Your Margins with Better Budget Management. My name is Jenna Guy, and I'm the Digital Campaign Manager for BuildTools. And today we're going to be focusing on budgets, why we need them, why it can be so challenging to manage them, and what you can do as builders and remodelers to improve your cash flow, eliminate costly surprises, and ultimately make more on each project. We have two excellent presenters who will be taking you through some budget management challenges and best practices. But before we get started, I just have a couple housekeeping items I want to share with you all. You're all muted, but please feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions throughout. We'll have a Q&A and Ask the Builder session later on in the webinar. So yes, please feel free to get those questions in. We also have a follow-up email where you'll get the slides and the recording. So if you miss something or if you have to hop off early, don't worry, you will get all of the information covered today. And we also have a feedback survey at the very end of the webinar. So we really appreciate your input and feedback. We want to make sure these sessions are valuable for you. So please feel free to provide your feedback. And with that, I will turn it over to Bob.
Great, thanks, Jenna. So my name is Bob Cain. I'm the business unit leader for BuildTools here at ECI Solutions. I spent the last 21 years in the industry working with builders all over North America to help refine processes and procedures, and eventually building out a consulting team in our professional services group to be able to help implement software products to help their business. Looking forward to spending time with everybody here today, and especially spending time with Sven. Sven, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So I am the original founder of BuildTools and also a home builder and remodeler out of the Minneapolis area. I grew up in a building family. I'm a fourth generation home builder. And when I joined the family business, I spent a lot of time addressing the challenges of a business that had been around a long time, but processes that really hadn't grown with the business. And that was where BuildTools had come from.
Excellent, excellent. So you said both a remodeler and a custom home builder. Can you give us a little bit of insight on the size of those businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. So I build upper bracket custom homes on the new construction side. That company is called Stonewood, and we do somewhere between 10 and 12. It's a little hard to put your finger on it. Some of the projects span longer than a year. Those projects are generally $1.5 million on the low side construction only to well north of $10 million on the high side. And then a separate company called Revision does 30 to 40 remodeling projects, probably averaging $500,000 to $600,000 per project, of projects of many different sizes, from kitchens onto whole homes and significant additions that are larger than the house we started with.
Excellent, excellent. So take us through, Sven, a little bit about your vision when you decided that you were going to move forward in creating a product like BuildTools.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started with BuildTools, grew out of an attempt with a couple of other products many years ago that got us excited about the possibility of using online tools to share information. I don't have architects or interior designers on staff. And our clients are oftentimes out of the state, and there's just a lot of information to share among all those different parties. And when we were building upper bracket custom homes, it seems that information is in a constant state of change. And so getting information that is out of date can be very expensive if we execute on the wrong information. And so we had tried a few different tools, different ways of sharing that information. Like I said, we got really excited about it, but it turned out that some of those tools just didn't have the workflow that our employees needed. It ended up slowing them down, taking a lot more time for them to do their work, and because of it, they pushed back on it. And so I hired a developer to build a couple of modules that we felt were the most important. We started with a module to manage our selections and a module to manage our change orders. We were oftentimes executing things in the field that we had approvals from clients that were verbal, but never got around to getting the paperwork done. And memories got convenient towards the end of projects, and people didn't feel like paying for things. So that was a pretty important one that we built. And then also the selections. just having to manage that relationship between the interior designer, the client, and our project managers in the field and our estimators in the office, that information constantly changing. And like a lot of builders, we were using paper and spreadsheets, and so often they were out of date. And like I said, they were causing us expensive mistakes. So we started there, and we got so excited about it that we just kept going. And after a number of years, we had a system, BuildTools, that encompassed really every aspect of workflow that our project managers and estimators were doing on a daily basis: scheduling and budgeting and change orders and selections and specifications and you name it. It really became a passion of ours to build a tool that made everybody's job easier and helped us avoid surprises and mistakes along the way of building and remodeling homes.
That's great. That's great, Sven. So talk to us a little bit about prior to systems. You're a fourth generation builder. You're coming in. The systems in the companies were a little bit behind. How did things work from a budget standpoint? Talk to us a little bit about the paperwork behind budgets and invoicing and selections.
Yeah, well, I think like so many builders, we started with Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel, and built forms and spreadsheets to manage all the information that we had to keep track of during the build process. And that works. If I were a home builder that were building just a couple of homes a year, Excel and Word are a fine solution. But as our company grew, as our popularity grew, and we were building more and more homes, we found that those systems started to break down. And so while we were managing, say, a budget in Excel, managing a dozen spreadsheets that were increasing in complexity because we started including additional tabs for monthly draw requests and change orders and so on, it just became overwhelming. And the same thing really goes for material selections. Like I said earlier, we don't have interior designers on staff here at Stonewood or Revision. We work with outside designers, and taking their information that came to us in such a wide variety of formats. Some of them were using a spreadsheet. Some, if they were a little more advanced, others were just sending us paper worksheets that they were filling out by hand. When we would then try to take that information and create a budget and have subcontractors bid that work, we might have a page of information that has all the selections for the kitchen, and then another page for the bathrooms that we would send out to the various trades, but the tile setter really only cared about the tile. And so a way to break down and create reports of just the tile in the house, and just the carpet in the house, and make it efficient for our trade partners was one of the driving forces behind building the selection module in BuildTools.
That's great. That's great. And as you went through here and you built this tool, and it was a good communication tool, and then you built a budgeting component to it, and it was good for your businesses that you run. What were some of the challenges that you found as you took BuildTools to market and you found that different builders were doing things differently?
Yeah, we found that there really is a commonality between builders. Everybody has a different format that they work from, but working with builders that might be doing most of their contracts on a fixed bid basis and not sharing a lot of information with their clients versus cost plus, open book, fully transparent, like I do business with most of my clients. There's a lot of little intricacies like that. Every builder has their own little way of doing things. But we've been able to boil that down with BuildTools and create just a few ways that I think incorporates all the commonalities between those different types of builders, giving them a framework to manage their processes. A different way to answer your question, some of the struggles that we found as we implemented BuildTools was trade partners that weren't up to the task of communicating electronically. At first, that was a little bit painful. We had folks that we'd worked with for a very long time that didn't like email or that didn't like logging into a system and organizing the information the way we wanted to. And over the years, we had to let go of a few of those trade partners that weren't able to do that. Looking back, it was something that really helped us grow as a company. It upped the requirements of our trade partners. We found that we needed folks that were organized and willing to be organized, and we're a better company because of it.
That's great. That's great. Now, talk to us a little bit about the importance of a budget. You know, you start a project, you have a starting point. There are some selections that may change. You know what you want to accomplish, and then you know, getting to the end. How important is it to keep that budget in line with every change along the process in a way that has transparency when you get to the end of that project?
Yeah, well, you know, for some builders, it might not be as important if they're doing things on a fixed bid basis and not sharing a lot of information with their clients. But for us, being fully transparent, it's very important that that everything is accurate from the initial budget, you know, during the design process through closing the project out. We have to be very accountable to our clients because they can see everything. The way we do things, we'll share the bids and the invoices and you name it with our clients. So if we make a mistake, there really isn't any place to hide. We just have to be accurate and accountable. So along the way, you know, the way we do it, as the project is designed, we're creating budgets that increase in complexity and accuracy as the documentation increases in complexity and accuracy. So when we have a concept plan, we'll have a concept budget that's probably really just based on square footage allowances and historical information and takeoffs and estimates and things that we do in the office. But as we have a more developed plan with engineering and sections and all of the detail that we need, we are soliciting bids from our subcontractors and holding them accountable to give us firm bids. So we have to supply them highly accurate information, be it specifications and selections and plans, so that they can give us a proposal that we can hold them accountable to. Having the budget available online to our clients is great. I mean, it allows them to walk through it with us as it's developed along the way, and then also see the changes in real time during the construction of their home. As change orders are approved, as changes are made, they approve them electronically, and in real time, the budget's adjusted. They can drill down over time and see how they got to the current budget, what changes they'd approved and rejected, and it really takes a lot of the guesswork and the smoke and mirrors out of it. It's all there for them to see.
Great, and simplicity is key in that scenario for when working with your customers, right?
It is, yeah. You know, clients, sometimes they've been through a process like this, but generally, when we're building them a multi-million-dollar custom home, they haven't done this before. And so providing that level of transparency creates a lot of trust. It allows them not to have to guess how much money we're making. Our fee is a line item in our budget. And as they're working with trade partners and considering changes, again, doing things cost plus and open book, we can openly talk about what things cost and not have to worry about defending our profit margin that might not be out in the open. Some builders do it that way, and that works. But on the cost plus end of things, which is really what drove some of our development, it was important to have that transparency and clarity.
That's great. So we actually have a poll for the audience now. Jenna, do you want to get an idea of what some of our listeners are doing from a budget standpoint?
Absolutely. So throughout the webinar, we're going to ask you guys a couple questions. We have 3 polls, and I'm going to launch this first one here, which is, what type of builder are you? So as you heard from Sven, he's a cost plus builder, and we want to make sure that our talk track is meaningful for you guys, and we're actually addressing some of your unique kind of situations. So we just want to know kind of what type of builder you are in terms of your fee structure. So give everyone a few more minutes or seconds, sorry, to get your votes in.
I feel like you need game show music during this portion.
That would be awesome.
Little Jeopardy.
Exactly.
Okay, a few more seconds and I'll close it out. Get your votes in. Okay. I'll share these so you guys can see. So it looks like the vast majority are fixed price. Coming up behind it is hybrid model, and then 14% are cost plus.
Great. All right, well that helps us, and we can take that into account as we touch on some of the other ways of budgeting. We can also take that into account when you send your questions over that we'll be able to address later on in the presentation. So let's just talk a little bit about best practices. So we know, Sven, that you go forward with a cost plus model, and we're certainly interested in that. If you could maybe touch on a little bit about best practices that you've learned and what you know about the 3 different types of budgeting and how they may apply to process here, so that our users can take some best practices home from this seminar.
Yeah, I see 2 major differences, between cost plus and fixed price. It's really just how much information you're going to share with your clients, and the form of your contract, which isn't that big a deal. That just dictates how you're going to work with them along the way. Fixed price simply allows for the builder to move a little bit more behind the scenes as things are under budgeted in one category, over budgeted in another. You're able to balance that out. It's I think it can be a more profitable model in a lot of ways. In some of our remodeling, it's sometimes hard to justify a higher percentage fee on a small project because the percentage, frankly, becomes a little bit offensive. On a $10,000 project, I can't charge a 15% fee, but that might be what I charge on a new construction project. So it makes a lot more sense in projects where the numbers might not be you might not be able to share them quite as readily because the numbers are just hard for clients to understand.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's probably where the hybrid model comes into play as well. So,
and when I think hybrid model, I oftentimes we'll have contracts that have allowances, and so maybe that's what you're talking about there. Is that you have a portion of the budget that is fixed and not as transparent to the client. For example, you might have the structure of the house, the framing, the lumber, the foundation, the excavation, and all those components that really aren't driven by the decisions that the client's making after the home is designed. And then separate out and have a little bit more transparency with carpet and tile and countertops and hardware and things that are likely to change throughout selections and ongoing design as the house is built. Having those a little bit more transparent makes a lot of sense. And so is that how you're referring to the hybrid model, Bob?
It is. Yep. No, that's a real good point. Sven. So then once you have a model defined and it's time to put that budget together, talk to us a little bit about the structure behind it. Are you putting it together to bid? Are you thinking about invoice application to budget line items? Is it solving a PO structure? What are some of the things that you and your team think about when you're creating that budget, Sven?
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, I think the budgets generally are built in our model. They're developed as the design is developed. At an early stage, the feasibility stage of working with a new client, we're looking at historical numbers. What does a 5,000 square foot home cost to build with similar finishes in the past, in recent past? That's a great tool. BuildTools has a fantastic compare function in the budget where you can compare and create averages across several projects. So if you have a client that is looking at designing that 5,000 square foot house, you've got maybe just some sketch plans of what that house would look like. All you really know is format and square footage. You can take similar projects and average them out and use that to create a budget. And then from there, make changes to relate to the actual plan that they've sketched together. That saved us a lot of time in recent years, where before we might have to drag a few projects from various Excel spreadsheets into a spreadsheet and do some math in the cells. That can work, but it takes a lot of time. And when you're working with several clients and you're trying to grow your business, the faster you can get these things done, the better. And so that compare feature in BuildTools budget has been great. BuildTools also has an annotations feature that allows us to do quick takeoffs on the plans. So doing quick estimates on floor coverings and cabinets and countertops, getting square footages and linear footages so that our estimator can put together a concept budget saves a ton of time. We just do it off the PDFs. We don't have to print and measure and use pen and paper anymore. That's a tool that we use earlier in the process. But a practice that we really believe in, especially on the new construction side, is by the time we're ready to break ground on a project, we've got the plans fully developed, we have millwork and cabinet drawings, we have all of the selections, and we competitively bid every aspect of that work prior to breaking ground. That's something that that is one of our cardinal rules, is we don't start a project before we know what we're doing and we have everything figured out. We can get effectively firm bids for every line item in our budget if we have that level of information, and we can really eliminate a lot of the surprises along the way, both budgetary and scheduling.
That's great, Sven. And then, just from a best practice standpoint, what's your recommendation for everybody listening here? Is it to move forward and create a baseline budget and have a good starting point before we and then bid that before we get into the selections process, or is it to try to make selections happen a little bit sooner? I mean, when is a good time to go to bid? Is it based on the trade? I mean, what is your advice to the group on that?
Yeah, all I can speak to is what's worked for me. I think if everybody could speak up, we'd probably have a lot of conflicting opinions on the best way to do this. But over the years, we have found that best practice is to budget several times as the plans are developed, so that we can steer the architecture. I have so many clients over the years that have walked in with a set of drawings that they've developed independently with an architect. They think they know what it's going to cost to build, and I have to give them the bad news. And more times than I can count, we've thrown their plans in the trash once we tell them what it's going to cost, and we start over and go through a process with the builder and the architect working together as a team, budgeting along the way, so that when we get the plans done, there really aren't any surprises about what it's costing. So that's been our process. To dig in a little bit further, about halfway through the design process, we do send out for formal bid requests using the BuildTools bidding tool. We might not cast as wide a net when the plans are incomplete, but we'll send it to a foundation contractor and a lumber supplier, a framing contractor, a window supplier, and so on, so that some of the bigger numbers we can really identify with the trades. We can identify issues that they see with the development of the plans before we've gone so far that we're going to spend a lot of money on architecture to make changes. That gives the client a really good tool midway through design to make decisions about how they want to proceed. And then, like I mentioned, when the plans are done, our goal is to have the selections done and be able to send it out to all the trade partners that we would consider for the project using the BuildTools bidding tool, and electronically collect all those bids, electronically analyze them, and then build our budget and issue purchase orders right from that tool.
That's great. That's great. And can you speak to the importance of having purchase orders to back up those bids and to back up those budget line items?
Yeah, that's something that for years and years even myself, I pushed back against it. It just seemed like a lot of paperwork and something that would be too time consuming to ever really undertake. And so we made that workflow in BuildTools very, very simple. If your budget is based on bids, issuing a purchase order from the budget is as simple as right-clicking and selecting from the little menu, issue purchase order, and attaching the proposal that the subcontractors had given you through the bidding tool, typing in details about what you're purchasing from that subcontractor, and then sending it out for their electronic signature. In years past, I would lose a lot of money because and builders, I think, can all relate to this. Bids that you thought were firm, bids that you thought were all inclusive, that were maybe given to you over the phone because you worked with somebody forever. My father had a habit of doing a lot of phone bids and phone hiring. Absolutely no accountability, and so we'd get to the end of a project, and people's memories would fade. Subcontractors would have done work that they believed to be an extra. We believed it was included, and we'd have a fight across every line item of the budget between ourselves and the subcontractor. And then if we lose the fight with the subcontractor, now we have a fight with our homeowners, seeing if we can get them to pay for the extra work that was done. POs are probably the single biggest thing that have improved our business over the years. Issuing contracts to every one of our subcontractors with a firm amount, with a firm scope of work, and locking into what we're going to pay them for the work that they're going to do. That too took quite a bit of training with some of our trade partners, letting them know that if they don't have a purchase order that includes the work that they're doing, they might not get paid for it. So creating that accountability on their side of the table to request purchase orders for things if they believe they're doing something that is in excess of what was agreed to. It's been a fantastic accountability tool, and I can't quantify how much money it's saved me over the years.
Yeah, it's great. You know, being squashed in the middle of a buyer that's making changes and trade partners that you have to communicate with, could totally see how a tool like Selections, a good budget, and purchase orders could help keep everything transparent and accountable. That's great.
And I think the trade partners, you know, the suppliers and subcontractors appreciate it as well, because they know that there's not going to be any confusion. We're not going to have a fight at the end of the project. They're going to get paid if they do the work that's outlined in our purchase order.
Yeah, agreed. Let's look at some worst case scenarios. You know, and these are the types of things that I think that you told us before, Sven, that a lot of builders can relate to when these types of things come up. You want to talk to us a little bit about this scenario?
Yeah, and again, I think every builder can relate to this. You know, doing work that everybody agrees to. We're all standing in the design center or on site, and clients talk about wanting to make a change or approving a selection. Doing it without the knowledge of price, doing it without paperwork documenting that they have agreed to the change. You know, changing out something as simple as a kitchen countertop, adding an edge detail, something that in the moment seems like a great idea. And as builders, we all become very friendly with our homeowners. It's a very relational business. And so when a homeowner tells you to do something and you are standing there with them and they say, yep, let's do it, proceed, our tendency is to do it without the paperwork. But when it's done and the bill comes in and it's more than they had expected, I can't tell you how many times I've heard a client say, yeah, I know I approved it, but I had no idea what it was going to cost, and now I don't want to pay for it because I wouldn't have done it in light of what it costs. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it sure does. So if we have the specifications laid out, if there are any selections or changes or colors, if we have that documented, like we said in the beginning, how important the paperwork is, if we have that documented and we have that included inside of BuildTools, you know, then any changes that happen from that point are accounted for. That's going to eliminate the surprises that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having clear paperwork that is accessible to everybody makes the process as seamless as it can be. And we're, as custom home builders, we're building prototypes. So everybody needs to be clear on what we're doing, so that there are as few surprises down the road as possible.
Sure. And for those builders who are not doing cost plus, I think it's still extremely important, because what we have here is we're talking about, you know, the specification of what we want to accomplish. Can you talk to a little bit, Sven, assuming that we're now in an environment that is not cost plus, we have a buyer expectation, we certainly have our budget underneath, and then we have selections that are happening. Can you talk to the importance of good communication with specifications as we go through that process as well?
Yeah, so you know, we look at the specification document, and BuildTools has a great specification tool in it, as capturing all the information that is not on the blueprints, not on the drawings. So for example, it might say asphalt roof, but it doesn't give all the detail that's necessary. How is the house being heated and cooled? It's not on the plans. It's also not going to be in the selections. So having a very clear specification document so that the client can understand what they're getting in their fixed bid contract, but then also on the flip side, the subcontractors know what they're bidding. So if you're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 different heating and cooling contractors bid the HVAC work, having a really tight specification to create apples for apples proposals is just critical. Otherwise, you're collecting 2 or 3 bids that really don't relate to one another. The lowest price might just be the guy that missed some of the things. And if you don't have that tight specification and that wasn't a part of the bidding process, hard to create accountability and hold them accountable for including things that weren't clear to them.
Yeah, great points. Great points. Let's talk a little bit about scenario number 2. So now you have a good budget. you have good specifications, you have purchase orders, and now you end up in a situation where we're trying to figure out whose responsibility something was. Talk a little bit about that scenario, like in this scenario here where we have water on a site.
Yeah, I mean, this came from one of our previous conversations. This is a real world example. We're digging a foundation, and our specifications clearly state that the subcontractor is to include any dewatering. If it rains after they dig the hole or while they're doing the excavation, it's the excavator's job to pump that out and give us an excavation that's ready for the next guy in line, for the foundation contractor. Without a specification document, that's really just left to your relationship. What do you normally do? What did you think they were bidding? What did they think they were bidding? And that undoubtedly will lead to one of the two, the builder or the subcontractor, feeling like they got burned. And so creating that specification just one time, so that on every project going forward, the subcontractor base and the trade partners know what is expected of them, will make them more comfortable in bidding, and it will save the builder or the subcontractors a lot of money in the long run.
So you have your specifications, you have your internal budget. We know that we have POs to communicate, and then we have a selections tool in place to be able to keep track of changes. So now what happens when there's a late change? There's a late change that comes in that the buyer wants, we put that in. Talk to us a little bit about how your systems handle that late change from a budgetary standpoint and a PO standpoint.
Yeah, if I understand the question, you're talking about a change during construction?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, the changes in the scale of project that we typically do can be large. You know, maybe it's adding it's finishing out a space that wasn't previously finished, or adding a fireplace that didn't exist in the original drawings. They can be complicated. It's not just one line item in the budget that is going to be adjusted if the client says go. So BuildTools change orders allows you to effectively build a mini budget. You can have as many line items as you like, from masonry to foundation excavation, stone and fireplace and gas line, and everything that might be included in the addition of this fireplace, as well as the actual selections. You can not only capture the costs of this requested change, but the paint colors and the stone selection and the fireplace unit, and you name it. And so when that's created and issued out for the client to consider it, if they approve it, it will change, you know, up to every line in the budget, depending on how you've built it. It will distribute those costs to the line item that they need to exist in, and then it will also, if you so choose, tee up the purchase orders that need to go out to all those vendors to do the work that the client just approved. That can be a really complicated, time-consuming process done manually. But with BuildTools, as soon as the change is approved, the POs are ready to send out, and it bridges a gap where things can really get forgotten, done manually. You know, those late change purchase orders that need to go with the change order, something that around my office previously got missed all the time until the invoices came in.
Excellent point. All right, that was great. Let's open this up for a poll now. Speaking of budgets and estimating, Jenna, do you want to poll the audience?
Yes. So, you know, Sven has talked a lot about having an estimator, and what we want to know from you guys today is, you know, do you have an estimator, or are you the estimator? Just let us know in the vote, in the poll there, because it's, you know, it's a bit different when your workflow is going to be a bit different if you're doing it all yourself, or you don't have kind of someone in that role designated for estimating. Okay, give you a few more seconds to get your votes in. We appreciate everyone's input today. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, close it out. I'll share here. You guys got your votes in quick. So it's a 50-50 split between yes and no.
Great, great. Well, that lines us up very good actually for our next topic, which is really just building the budget and getting into the best practices. You know, Sven, you kind of talked a little bit about being able to do budget comparisons. But if we take it back to the beginning as we go through the process, talk to us a little bit about how a budget evolves over time. And I know you've already given us a little bit of information on this, but maybe shedding some color on what we have on the screen here.
Yeah, and like you said, I think we've been through this a little bit, but it really just depends on the format of the builder. Some builders, and I don't know who we have online here, but some are building from plans that they're building over and over and over again. They're more model option builders rather than fully custom. And so BuildTools accommodates that methodology by allowing you to build templates. So if I'm building the same half a dozen homes over and over again, I can build a template that encompasses the budget, the selections, the purchase orders, all the documents related to it. And when somebody, when a new client comes along and wants to build one of those six models, I just create a new project and apply the template and make adjustments as necessary. Conversely, custom, we start with custom like we talked about, and we use the compare tool to try to give the client a good idea of what it's going to cost. Good friend of mine used to say that pricing houses by the square foot is like pricing cars by the pound. It just depends on so many little details that it's a bit of an irrelevant exercise. And so being able to take similar houses with similar finishes and similar massing can create a concept budget that is much more relevant to what you're designing. And then, like I said, along the way we do things, we have a budget that's based on the specs and more developed drawings, and then final plans and final selections, and then we press go. So it's a shorter process if you're working from a more fixed set of drawings and repeating it.
Excellent. That's great. And Sven, so if we have a tight budget and we are bidding out with a trade base, we are providing purchase orders for what needs to happen, and we have a system in place to be able to accept initial selections in the beginning and changes throughout, we're really building confidence, and we're building confidence in our buyers, and we're building confidence in our trade base. And it's taken us closer to where we consider and where I think we all want to be, and that is the builder of choice. So I think one of the things that we're focusing on here is the budget today, but the budget is really the nucleus and the central communication point of so many different areas and so many different systems.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for being the builder of choice. I mean, how do you see that, Sven, and what type of advantages can builders on the call right now get from really truly being the builder of choice for their vendors and their clients?
Yeah. So when I'm speaking to a prospective client, I generally don't show them photos of the homes that we build. I explain to them that I think the little secret of our industry is that in a market like Minneapolis, or probably any market, we're really all drawing from the same partners, the same suppliers, the same roofers and tile setters, and you name it. And so the quality that we get out of those folks is going to be driven by our level of organization and oversight. The pricing that we get from those folks is going to be driven by how we competitively bid them against one another. And when we're more organized, trade partners are going to want to work for us. They're going to be quicker to return our bids if they have all the information that they need. They're going to know that if they're on our job site and we're scheduling very well and we're issuing purchase orders, that they're going to be productive when they show up to do their work, and that they're going to get paid without surprises and arguments, because all the information is very, very clear. And so we become the builder of choice with our trade partners. And like your slide here says, most of our markets are tight labor markets. It's hard to get these guys to show up and do their work. It's hard to get them to bid their work. And so being the trade partner of choice with the subcontractors is pretty important to the efficiency of our business. On the other side of the coin, with clients, being organized, being able to be price competitive because the trades like to work with us, avoiding mistakes along the way, avoiding headaches, delivering our houses on budget and on schedule. That truly is the difference between me and all of my competitors. We're all drawing from the same trades. We're all buying the same window brands. We're all buying the same lumber brands and so on. And so it's the experience that is the differentiator between any builder and their competitors. I've heard over and over from builders that when clients, or when folks who have just recently gone through a build or a remodel, are all at a cocktail party chatting about their experience, hardly any of them will criticize the quality of their product, the quality of the home that they just built. They're all generally happy with that. What they're generally not happy with is the experience. It was over budget, it was behind schedule, it was one surprise after another, it was stressful. We were always having to make last minute decisions because we were given a selection timeline during the build. And once we picked something out, there was a lag in the time between when we picked it out and when we learned what it was going to cost us. And so it's all about building a repeatable, pleasant experience for clients to be that builder of choice. And the same thing goes, like I said, like we started, that repeatable, understandable process for trade partners is what makes builders the builder of choice with that side of the equation.
That's great, Sven. So really having a system in place to organize your budget, care for selections, communicate purchase orders, keep things on track with schedules, that does more than just save you money and make you more profitable. It makes you more competitive. It allows you to get more business. And so, we've talked a little bit about that selection change order side of things. That seems to be the biggest pain point of a lot of builders and remodelers who are not on systems today. So what we wanted to do here is just show a quick screenshot of what selections look like in BuildTools. So, so we go through and we start the process. We have that defined budget. Now we're going through and we're putting selections in. Can you talk to us, Sven, a little bit about the process of when someone asks for something that you already have on file because you've previously sold it, or when it is a brand new selection choice that they're looking for?
Yeah. So with my projects, we're building prototypes, like I said. There are certainly things that we use over and over again. I mean, this Wolf range that you have on the example is a good one. We use Wolf and Sub-Zero in almost all of our projects. So having the library of materials and BuildTools allows our interior designers to more quickly build out the selections for the project. They just, okay, it's a 36-inch Wolf with a griddle. Click, and they can put that item in with the photos and all the information pretty quickly. But many things that we're using, tile, for example, we've never used this tile before, and we wanted in building the selections module a tool that would allow us to quickly collect the information. It's going to be information that we're probably going to use once and then never use again. And so it works well in both of those scenarios. 80% of the things that we use in our houses we might not use again, and 20% we want to make that as simple to repeat as possible.
Great. And it also has the capability of scraping and looking for pictures. So you could show the pictures to the client at the point of selection, and then again, like you see in this picture here, during the reuse as well. Electronic signatures and the ability to integrate right into a budget and move forward and include it on POs like Sven talked about earlier. So, all right.
And getting, part of that tool is to get the client sign off on all of the selections that they've made to create the accountability, so that when we execute on something, we know the client's approved it. The way we do things, if a client wants a change, they need to have a change order. Otherwise, we're going with whatever selection was originally approved. Kind of like the client side of the purchase order, basically creating that accountability so that we can build from the documentation. A clever little saying that we have with all of our clients, we introduce them to it very early in the process, is we don't build from conversations. We build from all the documentation and the approvals that you're going to make along the way. So we're going to talk about a lot of things, and I don't want to get down the road with you in this project and say, but we talked about this. Yeah, we did. We talked about a lot of things. And if we want to do them, we need to get them in the selections. We need to get them in specifications. We need to get them on the plans. And we all need to be accountable for getting the decisions documented.
That's great. Great words of wisdom there. Transparency and great expectations are the key to a lot of things. Couldn't be more true here, Sven. All right, Jenna, do you want to take us through our last poll, and then we can start preparing some questions here for Sven?
Yes, last poll of the day, everyone. This one is a select all and apply. Having heard what you heard from Sven and Bob, and knowing what you know, what are the areas, plural, of budget management that you find most challenging or difficult? So you can pick as many as you want there. And if it's not listed there, like the last option says, let us know in the chat, because we want to make sure that we're providing content for you guys that's going to help you make the building process easier and help you get projects done, like Sven said, on time, under budget. Okay, got some early results coming in. Get your votes in, everyone.
And for those of you who voted early, the next slide, we're going to be taking questions for Sven. So if you have those questions, certainly pull up the chat, and no question is discouraged. Put them all out there, and we'll have a good conversation with it.
Okay, closing the poll out now, and I'll share the results there so everyone can see. So we got a three-way tie between creating the budget, managing change orders, and tracking cash flow as the top three kind of challenges and pain points.
All right, that's great.
Thank you, everyone. And as Bob said, we're going to move on to questions for Sven. So get them in the chat there. Ask away. You can provide more insights and information and best practices. Okay, let's see. Okay, we got a question here. How has BuildTools improved your margins on projects?
Sure, dramatically, and it's also allowed us to really grow. I've grown the company over the years without really adding too many employees. Our top line has doubled over the last 5 or 6 years, and our bottom line has certainly improved as a result of BuildTools, just giving us the ability to be accurate in everything we do, fewer mistakes. The pre-BuildTools, boy, we'd ordered the wrong carpet because we were working off an old selection. The wrong tile would get installed. Even though it was seemingly approved, but there was a change floating around that we didn't yet know about. That was maybe still with the interior designer or on a sheet that they'd sent us that didn't get transmitted to the field. That's been huge. I would say equally as impactful has been just creating the accountability between ourselves and our trade partners. They know what they're supposed to do. We have very clear documentation on what we're going to pay them, and we've gotten past things being approved in the field verbally that never get reconciled in the budget until the invoices show up. That's probably even more impactful than the selections, is just creating that clarity between our office and the subcontractors.
Definitely, thank you. And we do have one more. How difficult was it getting buy-in to use something like BuildTools from your team, from your crew?
Not so. I think because it was developed in our office, it happened very organically. I've worked with quite a few builder friends around the country, and it seems that they start with one pain point. Whether it's a budget management tool or a schedule management, and that I think creates buy-in almost automatically as you start using that tool and seeing the value of it. Whether you use it, for example, whether you're using Microsoft Excel to build a budget or you're using BuildTools, boy, they sure look the same. But BuildTools is more streamlined. It's built for builders. It uses terminology that builders have. And right in the tool, it jumps into change orders. And so, as you're using the budget management tool, it's very natural then to start issuing change orders out of there. And then it's very natural to start issuing purchase orders. And it's very quick. I've had a lot of builder friends who, after I show them BuildTools, they say, "My Lord, I'm gonna have to hire people to run this thing because it looks like it's got a lot of horsepower," which it does. But what they don't realize at first glance is that there's so much overlap between the different job functions and the modules within BuildTools that a large portion of that perceived extra work gets done automatically. When you issue purchase orders and the client approves it, or a change order and the client approves it, the budget gets adjusted automatically. And then when you want to go issue a purchase order, the information's right there. You just right-click, issue PO. It tells you how much you have left in your budget, which has been automatically changed by the addition of the change order, and away you go. And so I think builders find quickly that they can do a lot more with the team that they already have just by using the BuildTools tool set. When I've brought new employees in over the years, and I've had some folks that are maybe not as computer literate, They've been in the industry for a lot longer, and out of the gates, they seem resistant, but they see how much work our other project managers are getting done using BuildTools, and they quickly jump aboard. And I've had some of the, the older, more stubborn project managers I brought on be the most vocal advocates for BuildTools and how much it has improved the job that they do. Fewer phone calls and just less communication is needed with the subcontractor trades, because it's all right there for them to log in and see. It gets pushed out to them automatically. So
Awesome.
it depends a little bit on the team.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Here we go. I want to be cognizant of time. We have one more question and then we can move on. This one, on many of our larger projects, we issue pay voucher requests for work completed and project management fees. Since we do not issue checks, how is this accounted for in BuildTools?
Yeah, I'm going to guess that it works a lot like how we do things.
Mm-hmm.
So on our new construction side, we really don't pay any of the subcontractors directly. We track the invoices. We create a monthly pay application. We call it a draw request. It's a more elaborate version of the budget that outlines the payments that have been made previously. It outlines our current payment, and it goes to the client for approval. And then once approved, it goes to a title company or a bank or the client if they're maybe paying it directly. And those checks get issued by a third party. So that's how we do it. Even when I have a client that wants to maybe just pay cash and pay us along the way, we really like to work with a title company or a third party to manage those payments and lien waivers and manage that whole process through the financial statements, the draw requests, and BuildTools. It keeps it simple. It creates some additional accountability of having that third party issue the checks and track the lien waivers. It sounds like maybe that addresses the question.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, Bob. So do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, let's definitely do that. So in addition to all the great things we're talking about, just listening to you talk there, Sven, I mean, all of the things that happen in BuildTools have to happen in any builder or remodeler environment. They have to happen. They're happening today. What BuildTools does is it really brings everybody together in one database, in one system. It connects them. It eliminates redundancy, and it keeps everybody accountable and connected in one system. It was developed by a builder, as you're hearing right now from Sven, through a builder's mindset, through a builder's vision, with builder terminology, with builder workflow. And it was developed in a way to be very simple so that users could catch on to it very quickly. So you're removing a barrier of usage. The things have to happen every day anyway. And when you think about the POs and the change orders, they're issued in seconds, as opposed to if you're doing them manually or inside systems where they could take a lot longer. They could take hours. These are being done in just a few clicks. So again, it keeps everybody accountable. It pulls everything together. And then just in wrapping up, you asked a question, or somebody asked a question about what did it do to the margins for Stonewood? I mean, we hear from customers all of the time that they can't even describe why things are different or why they're making more money. It's really everything once they start using all of BuildTools. So if you're thinking about effective budget management, you're thinking about clarity, resolving problems, getting paid regularly, good communication with trades, the builder of choice, all of those things together, in addition to the thing that Sven mentioned, building the right product, not having to rip things out and put new things in. People think construction management solutions, are too much for them. And we recently seen that there's over 60% of general contractors, custom home builders, and remodelers have never used a web-based project management tool, mostly for this very reason. And so what we're trying to do in this webinar here today is to give you some real-life examples from a real-life builder, remodeler, to show you that it is possible, and the thousands of users across the world that are using BuildTools today would tell you the same.
And you don't have to use every module right out of the gates. I think most builders start with one pain point, like I said earlier, and they realize the power of BuildTools, and they realize that a lot of the information that they're managing with the system flows over into the others, and it grows very naturally from schedule or budget or document management, you name it. to eventually consume all of the different aspects of the building process.
That's a good point. From a very low cost of entry with BuildTools, even if you just solve one pain point, you're going to get a huge return on your investment.
And it's important to implement early in the growth of a builder. I think too often builders look to a tool like BuildTools after they're overwhelmed, and that's the worst time to try to implement a new system, when you're already overwhelmed with projects and volume, and then trying to build systems to manage that new volume that you have. Better to get it implemented when you're small and be able to grow through it and because of it.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. And speaking of that, from a business owner standpoint, Sven, it's easy to just hire people to solve problems, right? So kind of leads us to our next bullet point here.
Yeah, I think so often builders will hire individuals in their office to manage schedules. They'll have a schedule person, they'll have a purchase order person, they'll have a change order person or a selection person. You know, it's not a great use of that person's time. Oftentimes that maybe isn't a full-time job, and it's not distributed across everybody in the office. So having the one hub to connect all those different job tasks, I think allows builders to do a lot more with fewer folks in the office.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then, you know, just like we said before, like we started this seminar here today, paperwork is necessary. It is a nuisance. It is challenging. But when you put it all into a system, and we go from the mindset of paperwork to systemizing our business here to take advantage of repeatable action and keep everybody organized, I think you'll be able to see through a demo and through an overview that BuildTools is a great tool. Jenna, do you want to wrap it up with some of the resources that will be available to everybody who took the webinar today?
Absolutely. So we do have what's called our Custom Builders Toolkit. We've taken, a bunch of best practices and tips and condensed them down into short, digestible documents on kind of the top pain points that builders and remodelers have: bid management, change order management, scheduling, selections, all that good stuff. We do have those available for download on our website. I've provided the link here. You'll get a copy of these slides, so you'll have that link, or you can just go to our website and look under resources. If you did want to learn more about BuildTools, we encourage you to visit our website or schedule a in-depth demo and get a personalized kind of walkthrough of the tool to see all of those great modules and features that Sven and Bob talked about. And like I said, you will also get a copy of this presentation too. So if you want to refer back to it, or if you have any questions that weren't answered today, please feel free to put them in the chat or send them to buildtoolsinfo@ecisolutions.com. And we'd be happy to get in touch with you and answer your questions.
That's great. Well, thank you, Jenna, for putting together these slides and keeping us organized here. And thank you, Sven, for being a customer, being a visionary behind BuildTools, and especially for your time and your expertise and knowledge in this seminar today. We really appreciate it. I know that everybody on the call did as well. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody, for joining.